From the Skyterra Wellness Retreat, this is the Inspired Intentions Podcast, where we help people build the skills and mindset to live a healthy life. Hey everyone, before we dive into today's episode, if you've been enjoying our podcast, take a moment to rate and review. It may seem like a small thing, but our ratings and reviews make a huge difference in the quality of our show. They help us reach more listeners like you so we can continue bringing you more amazing content. So, if you've found inspiration, learned something new, or just love tuning in every week, please rate the Inspired Intentions Podcast 5 stars and leave us a review and even share with a friend. We truly appreciate each and every one of you. Now let's get into the show. This presentation is for educational purposes only and is not intended to provide any medical advice. The presenter will not evaluate, diagnose, provide any prognosis, care, treatment, or care treatment plan, nor any advice, opinion, or consultation regarding any of the foregoing for any attendee. This presentation is not suitable for obtaining medical care for your treating medical provider.
Hello, Inspired Intentions listeners. I have a guest on our episode today who has had some big changes happen since the last time she was on. We did an update after Hurricane Helene on how we have done here at Skyterra. We've put some updates on social media towards the end of last year. But Hurricane Helene meant some big changes for most affectionately known as Dr. T. Hi, Dr. T.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning. It's so good to have you on again.
Thank you so much.
Of course. And I know a lot of people have reached out to you, but there has been a big change since you were last on our episode because of the hurricane. Are you okay giving our listeners an update?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. As many of you know, I had two offices in this state, my primary office in Marshall, North Carolina, and then my office right next to Skyterra. And Marshall was fairly devastated by the hurricane, and I lost that office really all in one sweep there. But, while there's some pain to that, I had the opportunity to just grow more fully into this office here in Pisgah Forest. And that has, like any other period of turnover and regrowth, been very generative, very on point for what we're going to talk about today with the inflammatory process and a way that our bodies turn over and restart.
And Dr. T, for listeners who may be listening to you for the first time, you are not a Skyterra employee, but your office, as you said, is located just next to Skyterra. And so when guests are at Skyterra, they have the opportunity to meet with you and work with you, and you can help them even further along in their wellness journey. Can you give our listeners just a background on just who you are and your experience and how you got to us?
Absolutely. Yes, I had a fairly standard beginning in my doctor career and was trained in internal medicine, trained residents in hospitals and clinics, and ultimately found my way to natural medicine out of a need for more answers and more options for true healing that are really more creative and personally based in nature. So my partnership with Skyterra was really very natural in the sense of once I had my natural clinic and I got wind of a community of people who are just taking on the hard but real and gratifying challenge of helping people to reclaim autonomy in their health, helping people to learn to live healthy. It was just a natural blend. I wanted to be close to what you guys are doing. I wanted to be in contact with people who are showing up to take on hard and exciting things with their health. So, my office here has just been a really natural blend, and I really value my community partnership with Skyterra at a deep level. Thank you.
And we certainly do as well. And we hear from our guests all the time just what a difference you make in their lives. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And our topic today is inflammation.
Inflammation.
I don't even remember. I think we came to this topic because maybe you're hearing from guests. It also seems to be something that is trending lately. And so that's how we got here. And so I think starting just really broadly, if you could just answer what exactly is inflammation?
Yes, and that is how it came to my attention. It is a very nebulously referenced term. And, well, I realized that people's concern around inflammation didn't exactly match what I was taught inflammation meant clinically. And then it kind of brought me into really thinking about what my views on what inflammation is, what it represents. Is it a healthy state and an unhealthy state? So in the broadest view, well, honestly, I think as it's colloquially referenced, inflammation is talking about a very cellular process, a very physical state of persistent imbalance on a cellular level. But that's the concept that is kind of trending right now, is how our cells can be in a persistent state of stress and how that can come out symptomatically on your labs, and what that portends in terms of your overall health and prognosis and survival on this planet. But truly, inflammation deserves a little bit of a broader view than that. Inflammation, well, has more to do with our balance. It is about our balance, not just on a cellular level, though. Okay, my husband and I are both Libras. Okay, as a Libra who married a Libra, we talk a lot about balance. We are not the same kind of balance. So my husband, kind of a classic, like center balanced, kind of always the same. If I'm cold, I'm blasting the heat to 85, and if I'm warm, I'm putting the AC on max. And our lives reflect that. I live in intense passion in my work, and then I need to retreat in intense solitude and baths and self-rest. And my husband kind of lives by the putter principle. He just is always kind of chipping away at things, and it'll get done. So it's interesting because we talk about balance. Both of those actually reflect the kinds of balance that we need in ourselves to live a long and happy life. It's interesting that in my household, we kind of champion both of those balances and have paired up that way. But I view both forms of that balance as monumentally important in getting this body to do what it was designed to do here, and doing it well and for a long time. That kind of firm, steady balance is something that is, when I think about my healthiest patients, like the people who I really model my own life after. I look at people who have, it's not that they've had flat, boring lives. They have weathered hard, love, joy, everything in between. But they have that firm, steady balance from a soul level, from an astral level. It's like their purpose is very clear, their love, their community connection. What they're here on this planet for is very firm and imbalanced the whole time. And then there's stories of the roller coaster that brought life them, and how they kind of weathered those storms. So that, to me, speaks to, okay, my husband's version of this steady, firm Libra balance is really a healthful quality for our higher selves, our astral selves, our soul, our conscious selves. Now, balance that against what our bodies are asked. Our bodies are made to be incredibly flexible, incredibly dynamic, adaptive, and our bodies on a cellular level actually prefer the balance that I embody as a Libra. Give me a challenge and I'll go level 100. Our cells love that. It's how they grow. It's how they become resilient. This is being really well referenced in kind of the anti-aging medicine world. So they talk about hormetic challenges, meaning things that push your body up until a difficult state. Triggers these pathways. Each cell has like a internally programmed pathway. They're named the sirtuin pathways, the mTOR pathways. These are the pathways that a cell uses to decide its fate. So, and it loves to be pushed up against those decisional pathways of, hey, am I strong enough to survive? Should I actually turn over and give my nutrients, winterize myself, give my nutrients to another cell that can spring into and grow a new flower? So it's this idea that our cells love actually to not be that steady form of balance. Our cells love to be challenged. So the hormetic challenges that keep our cells adaptive, strong, resilient, as we study the blue zones, the people who live a long time, it's not just that they have purpose and direction. Their cells are being given these challenges of action and recovery regularly through exercise. Push that muscle up to the point of failure, and some of those muscles will have to decide they're not strong enough to make it. Let's keel over, give our nutrients to this bicep cell that can double up for the next one. That's how we grow. It's how we adapt. And that's not just like exercise, cold plunging heat that does that, and we're studying how that can do that. But honestly, the oldest things built into our human rhythms are designed to do that for ourselves. The cadence of a day, the idea that we're supposed to be very busy on our land, in our jobs, and our bodies are supposed to be busy during the day and then restful and come down at night. There's that activity rest pulsation within a day that is incredibly hormetically challenging and needed by our cells. That exists within the light-dark cycles of our day, of our seasons. It exists within our food, our ability to fast and feast, and how our bodies love to go between those states. So these very ancient, just diurnal rhythms of our lives is how our cells learn that resilience, and they're being asked to stay in a state of action and recovery around these activities. This becomes really important now as we talk about inflammation, because inflammation, those practices that keep our cells strong to be able to act and recover is exactly what we need when we start to talk about EMFs, chemicals, pesticides, challenges that require a lot of action also need recovery. The more we practice our cellular resilience around action and recovery, the better our bodies can do against kind of these toxicity challenges. So ultimately, when we shake it down like that, we've got the higher instruction of ourselves, of our soul bodies, that plus the hormetic and flexible and rhythmic challenge that our physical bodies need and the communication between those, that's what creates a very healthy human. This is a very ancient concept. We have encountered this in Chinese medicine as the yin and the yang of a human being, our ability to enter both states of being. We have entered this in tantric concepts and not so much tantric tantra is not so much about sexuality. Its central core nature is talking about the lingam, our pillar, our pillar for purpose and direction, and then the yoni, the fluid and the water that cycles around it, and that is the earthly, motherly, generative force around that central purpose. So I think of it very much like that. Our cells love the turbulence and the water and the practice, and they can be really good at protecting us against challenges, the very real challenges that come up in our lives. But they also need that central direction to be strong. So in a nutshell, inflammation is a very cellular, physical way of describing when that water, that turbulent, that cellular process is just really chaotic and burnt out and overused and imbalanced. So, and that structure will be important when we come back around to how do we treat this and how do we prevent this. But I think for now, we should really hone into that concept of what happens when our cells are not just being challenged in a healthy way to do stuff and recover, but what happens when they are overly challenged, overly taxed, burnt out. And we live in a world where that's a very real risk, not just because of the level of toxicity that exists in our world, but also because of our disconnection from our central lingam, purposeful direction. As a society, we lack that higher level purpose and direction. And without that, our cells are kind of just left to their own turbulence and chaos and managing all of this crazy stuff in our world on their own.
Dr. T, one of the many things I love about you is how you could have just said inflammation is swelling, but you didn't.
It's also swelling.
What you did instead was the way that you approach everything and the way that you approach your patients is from a much bigger viewpoint, from a global level. And I think that's so helpful for all of us to understand what that means in terms of our health from a bigger perspective. And so thank you for taking the time to do that. Thank you for the little peek into your life at home too with your husband. I like that. That was a really good metaphor. So thank you. How do people know if they have inflammation? Like how would you know this?
Yes, thank you. So there are very specific things that we can maybe look for on labs. But before we go there, I think just hearing the language of your cells that concept of your cells are burnt out, they're doing more action than recovery. I would say that probably with higher level specificity, a person can predict their cellular burnout better than my labs could. Now, we're getting better at measuring this, and because we're getting better at measuring this, we're also giving more credence to this concept. So you're hearing more about doctors measuring inflammatory labs as a way to predict your prognosis, your outcomes, your longevity. I will touch on that because I think it's important that you can probably even off of your standard labs just extract a few things and for yourself see if your cells are screaming inflammation. But usually before that even shows up, the truth is at a very personal level, most people can feel a state of inflammation. So a state of inflammation feels like your cells are tired. Chronic fatigue, swelling, like you said, which is just a fluid distribution that a tired body takes a lot of energy to redistribute fluid. So when your body is burnt out, it will let go of some lower priority items maybe. So chronic fatigue, that swelling, achy joints, chronic pain, stuff that a well-rested body could take care of no problem. Wake up with and get all that extra swelling and pain out of my joints, whereas that actually might be not addressed for a fatigued body. Just rapid aging, somebody who just feels like they're aging beyond their years. Lack of rhythm is a common thing that I hear people tune into when they are in a state of inflammation. Lack of rhythm maybe within their days or even within their life more generally.
What do you mean by that?
Like a person who feels that, the day is more just blah. Ask me in the morning, I'm going to feel achy, not too energetic. Ask me in the afternoon, I'm going to feel achy, not too energetic. Ask me in the evening, I'm going to feel achy, not too energetic. Versus somebody who, gets, I'm raising 3 kids, I'm working 2 jobs, and I'm working myself in the morning. By 4 o'clock, I'm fatigued, I'm ready to hit the sack. That might just be a person who is living a really intensive life, but actually might not be burnt out. It's amazing our capacity to handle those things, but a person who's just kind of riding at a flat level, I worry about that. There's no rhythm there. There is no pulsation of activity and rest. A feeling of being worn out, burnt out, just adrenal fatigue, those words speak to this concept. Fragility, getting sick a lot, or recovery being hard after an illness, your body becoming frail, tearing tendons and not repairing them quickly, and having multiple broken bones and tendons, and just feeling like you're falling apart. It's not in your head, and we're just starting the practice of being able to measure it. When those things happen, just know that it represents the idea that your cells are not getting the chance to recover. There's a backup plan for this, okay? The intelligent design of our universe is such that even if we do overtax our bodies and add on more and more jobs for it to do, even beyond what we can do within ourselves to recover, it's amazing to think about the things that were planted in the Earth's garden that are there to fix us if we have run out of our own stuff. So basically, that's the word antioxidant. Antioxidant, we can generate our own, and when we've used up our own, it comes from the external world. So we get our antioxidants from oxygen and cholesterol, pure and simple. Oxygen we can change into energy and antioxidants. Cholesterol, which we can get from plants. We call those phytosterol. So blueberries, very high in plant cholesterol. So we can fix ourselves with blueberries, pomegranates. They have high fixing cholesterol. We can get cholesterol from animals, fish, eggs. That is antioxidants. And then lastly, even if we can't, we can get cholesterol from the sun to fix ourselves. It's called vitamin D, made right underneath the skin. So cholesterol and oxygen are available from the outside world. And by the way, if you're not getting enough of that, your liver will even just make you some extra cholesterol. It's our fix-it molecule. So my point is feeling these symptoms of chronic fatigue, achy joints, swelling, rapid aging, just getting worn out, no rhythm in your life, that is a sign that not only are your cells not resting, but you're not getting enough fix-it help. So by the time that's happening, we do tend to see this kind of creep up on the labs. We see CRP, C-reactive protein, and erythrocyte sedimentation rate. CRP and ESR are inflammatory labs. They're very cheap, probably $6 a piece, without insurance. So anybody could request these, or you could even get them self-ordered. There are labs that will allow you to order your own labs now. Rupa and Genova Labs are two that I know allow patients to order their own. But, these are fairly known in the common medical world, and you probably wouldn't be too hard-pressed to have your physician order them if you feel burnt out in one of these ways. A high CRP, high ESR is correlated with high states of inflammation. Looking at if you've had a routine annual cholesterol panel, that LDL that we really focus on, the quote-unquote bad cholesterol, I don't really view it as a bad cholesterol. I view it as a sign that your liver's working hard to make up for the repair molecules that you don't have or are not getting. And yes, seeing that your cholesterol LDL is high year after year is alarming, because you're realizing how hard your liver's working to antidote that scenario. But CRP, ESR, LDL, very common labs that you may have already even had checked before, and that high LDL, high CRP, high ESR correlate with high levels of inflammation. There are some kind of more specialized ones that you may or may not have had tested, but if you've had a vitamin D level tested, or if you could ask your doctor for one, a low vitamin D level is essentially, that's one of our fix-it molecules from the sun that is running low within our bodies. An omega-3 ratio that is below a 4 has been correlated with poorer life outcomes, because it means that the fix-it molecules from fish and the animal world are running low within us. So you need to eat more, and or you're burning through it. So oxidized LDL is another one that I will say is a bit newer to the scene, but it represents unfixed molecules, unrepaired molecules coursing through your bloodstream. So those are some labs that really point directly towards a state of inflammation. And even then, that's still a precursor to the ultimate expression of high inflammation, which is our diseases of inflammation. So that's autoimmune disease, diabetes, hyperlipidemia, fatty liver, obesity. These are, and I would argue that we're starting to learn that even the brain conditions of Alzheimer's, ADHD, autism spectrum disease, that's inflammation of the brain. But organs expressing high levels of inflammation are named under those terms. So that progression of, I think it's reassuring to know that you can feel your body going into a state of inflammation or burnout before it will show up on labs like CRP, ESR, LDL, low vitamin D, low omega-3, oxidized LDL, and that will even happen before your body goes into a disease state of autoimmune disease, diabetes, hyperlipidemia, obesity, Alzheimer's. So it gives us some opportunity to intervene along the way.
So those disease states would be if you have this inflammation and you don't do anything to counteract, those would be more of the long-term effects?
Yes. So cells that are getting burnt out and cannot repair themselves over time will just become inefficient, damaged, scarred, and that's where we start to see it as a disease.
What can I do about it? How do I prevent this? I know you've mentioned foods, the sunlight, blueberries, pomegranates, which are delicious. But how do we how do we prevent this?
Lovely. There's so much that we can do. And rather than, I'm hoping that this does not come across as overwhelming. In natural medicine, there's so many options, and I think it's really important to tune into the one that you feel is maybe most off balance, needs the most nurturing, or the one that you are most excited about doing. So there's a lot that we can do to help the physical body re-enter a state of repair, balance its action with its time of recovery and rest. Before I jump into that, just because there's a lot of options, I just want to remind you that that concept of our higher bodies, our astral and true I selves, being the directors of our physical body is really important, because I feel that if you're somebody who identifies with the lack of purpose, community, you don't really feel placed within your soul's journey, I think that leaves your physical body more vulnerable to be tugged, to be worked by this world. So there is something about nurturing our purpose, our true passions and our loves, and our being part of communities, which comes out over and over again in these blue zone studies, these centenarian studies. It's just that this world can't quite touch you the same if you have that. So keep that in mind, because, well, I think that to a large degree our physical medicine doesn't work so great when that's not anchored. So take from that as you will. But the things that you can do to support your physical body. So let's divide this up into kind of three categories. Number one, remember we were talking about the idea of our cells. Let's work those cells so that they are practiced at action and recovery in a very efficient way. So let's try and amplify those natural rhythms and cadences in our life, so that when our bodies are asked to do something hard, it's just ain't no thing. It's just I could do it. So the rhythm and cadence that make our cells really resilient, make them very actionable and whippersnapper at recovery, are exercise, stimulation, excitement, and passion, balanced with states of rest, recovery, silence, personal time. So really,
what you were describing, you.
Yes, I work harder at one of those columns. And knowing yourself to not judge the column that you like to live in, because it's absolutely your superpower, but balancing that with so that it can be a cycle and not just a linear vector. So that making sure there's cadence in your day-to-day life, in your overall trajectory, in your life planning. So that's just pulsation, rhythm, and cadence. Making sure there's light and dark patterns in your day. So, if you live in a place with beautiful seasons, I grew up in Canada. I think it's really nice because the seasons are so extreme. Good luck ignoring that. You're just going to be stuck inside with 6 feet of snow in the winter, and you're just going to have to do a lot in the summer because you got 2 months to plant your garden or whatever. So there's seasonality that kind of brings that to us. But in our day-to-day, I think we have a lot more control over that. We live at a time where we don't really respect that so much. We could be just as revved up at 8 p.m. at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., and that's not so natural. Creating a light rhythm in your house where things do get darker and somber, maybe not somber, but candle lights at night, dimming the lights. If there's a lot of screens, protecting yourself from that blue light, which really tells your body it's morning time. So light and dark patterns, fasting and feasting. So there's a lot of versions of this: intermittent fasting, periodic fasting, or even just having different eating patterns in the winter and the summer can be very healthy. So protecting those regular cadences within our life is I think a very high level order intervention for this. Number two, I think, we can all stand to reduce the number of external stimuli that keep our bodies working hard all the time. And that's different for different people. But the high-ranking ones in our current world are EMFs. Our bodies work really hard in a world where there's a lot of constant radiation. We work really hard to protect ourselves from that. So reducing EMFs, reducing the chemical exposure in your life, and reducing the stress in your life, which those are each kind of their own talk and have a lot to them. But in a nutshell, those things keep your body in a unidirectional vector. And then lastly, I think we need to remember that when we are in a state of imbalance and we are worn out and worn down and our cells need repairing, beyond those rhythmic cadences and self-protection measures, I think it's important to remember there are external things in this world that we can use very well to help ourselves repair. If they're not within us, we can get them from the oxygen and from natural cholesterol. So getting outside, breathing, and getting some good natural cholesterol through fish, through blueberries, through the sun. And we can absolutely repair ourselves with those.
One of the things that I love about you and what we do at Skyterra is everything is so interconnected. And just throughout our conversation today, we have some upcoming episodes that will speak even more to what you've talked about in a completely different way. So we have an episode upcoming on sleep maxing, and Teresa will talk about all of the importance of getting your blue light in the morning and reducing that at night so that you can sleep better. And then we have Dr. Wheatley Posey coming up as well to talk about Chinese medicine and to talk about the yin and the yang and the flow between the two. And all three of your perspectives, you're all experts in your field, and all three of your perspectives are different and interconnected at the point of what we do at Skyterra. So thank you so much for all of your expertise.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure.
Is there anything else about inflammation that we haven't talked about yet?
Well, I also don't want you to, I think the last thing I want to say is I don't want you to worry about if inflammation is something that you see on your labs and see in maybe a diagnosis that you've been given. It's ultimately an expression of how much our bodies can do. It's really impressive that our bodies can blaze to that level. And rather than that being a scary thing, I think it brings a sense of appreciation of how hard these bodies will fight for us in this life. And what I love about this talk that you asked me to engage in today is that all of the remedies for a hardworking body are just so nice to think about, so soothing. And it feels very natural to want to give a hardworking body something from this list.
Thank you so much. So listeners, if you want to know more about Dr. T, there's two ways that you can get to her on the internet. You can certainly go to skyterrawellness.com and navigate to, we have information about her in a couple of different places. On our team page and down at the bottom of our website as well, there's a direct link. You can also go to Dr. T's website, which is the word drtmd.com. And the best way to see Dr. T is to come to Skyterra and leave our campus and take about 10 steps and end up at her office.
Please come by.
Please do. Dr. T, thank you so much for your time today and just in the beautiful and thorough way that you explain everything you are to us. Thank you. Bye, listeners. The Inspired Intentions podcast is a production of Skyterra Wellness Retreat. Special thanks to our executive producer, Alan Broyhill. Send us your questions and comments to inspiredintentions@skyterrawellness.com. Subscribe on iTunes and everywhere podcasts can be found. If someone you know might benefit from this podcast, share Inspired Intentions with them and give us a 5-star rating. Join us next week as we cut through the unrealistic noise on diets and fitness and show you how healthy living fits seamlessly into your already busy life. Thanks for listening.